it's Vanessa, the Crafty Gemini, and I'm back with video number 3 in my Butterick 6214 video sew-along series. Now, I will be straight up with you. This video is long and it's a lot of talking because this is the in-depth video where I'm going to walk you through the back part of the pattern envelope. There's a ton of information there, even though it just looks like jumbled up words and numbers. If you don't know how to read the back of a pattern envelope, you're already setting yourself up for a disaster when you just dive right in and try your hand at making that pattern. So we're gonna walk through every single section, step by step. I'll show you how to read it, what it means, and how to decipher it so you can take the information that you need to then choose your fabric choices, the pattern size, notions, and all the things that you need to have down before you even take the pattern out of the envelope. So yes, there is a lot of time involved. If you're one of the people that's been emailing me telling me that I talk too much or that I just need to move on and get to the tutorial, this series and this video is probably not going to be for you. My teaching style is to walk through things a little bit more in depth and step by step. So yes, it is going to take some time on your part to sit down with the back of your pattern envelope and follow along with me so you can have a better understanding. I would say if you take the time to watch this video in its entirety, taking notes and following along with me, I think you're going to be setting yourself up for some better results, not just in this pattern, B6214, but in any other future commercial sewing patterns that you decide to tackle. So I hope you enjoyed this video and leave me a comment below after you watch it, letting me know what you thought. All right, moving on with Butterick 6214. If you recall from the last video, make sure that you watch it because I go over what not to do. You'll see that based on my bust, waist, and hip measurement, I ended up sprawled out through 3 basically different sizes here in between large and extra large, then one measurement at extra large, and another between XL and 2XL. And so what we decided in the previous video, which was absolutely wrong, was to just cut out the extra large size. One key thing that you have to look at in the pattern, no matter what pattern you're following, is the amount of ease, right? That's included in the pattern pieces. Now, if we look at the front of this pattern, you can see that it fits the model pretty loosely. I can see kind of the bagging of the fabric here. And of course, that's gonna look different on a lot of different body types. So on her, it looks, okay, cute, like it's a little bit breezy. I can kind of see some spacing here in the sleeve, so I know it's not tight fitting. And the same thing for the drawings, but I like to look at it on the actual model first. Then look at the back and you'll see the technical drawings down here, which give you a very good representation of the finished garment. You can see these kind of lines here that signify some movement, some drape, and some looseness in the pattern. Now here is the key thing that you need to read when you pick up any pattern, is right here in the back of the pattern envelope, the description. Right there, you'll always, pretty much always, see some type of descriptive word or phrase that's going to tell you exactly what this pattern is going to be like. So we'll see here, it says Mrs. Top, that's what you're making. Loose fitting, that is your #1 clue, loose fitting. However, what does loose fitting mean? Loose fitting for me might be tight or fitted on somebody else, depending on how each one of you like to wear your clothes. So what you need to do when you're picking up a commercial sewing pattern and reading the description is that you need to reference that specific brand, in this case Butterick. You need to reference their specific ease chart on their website is typically where you'll find it, okay? You're gonna have to go and find out what does Butterick patterns call loose fitting. So let's head over to my computer so I can show you where you would find that information, and then we'll move on so you can understand a little bit better how Butterick designed this pattern to fit. So we'll open up a browser here and type in butterick.com so we can head over to their website. Now on the main page here on the right, you'll see size and fit charts. If you hover over that, a menu pops out and you'll want to click on ease chart. That's what we're trying to figure out. Now under Mrs. Ease allowances here, it's separated into bust area for garments basically that go on your top half, and then hip area for bottoms like skirts and pants and shorts and things like that. So I want to look under dresses, blouses, shirts, tops, and vests because that's what we're making. And then under the silhouette on the left-hand side, look for loose fitting because that's what the back of the pattern description told us. And you can see that they add in the bust area 5 1/8 to 8 inches of ease in the bust area for tops. So this tells me that if I cut my size according to where I fall on the size chart with my body measurements, I'll have that amount of ease included into the bust area of my top. So whether you think it's too little or too much, at least now you know what you're working with. All right, so now that we know that it's loose fitting according to their chart and standards, now we move on to the rest. Pull over top. So that tells me the top comes on you just by putting it over your head, which is a good sign, and it's one of the reasons I chose this pattern for beginners because that tells me it doesn't really have buttons, a zipper closure, a hook and eye on the back. It just pulls over your head. Pretty easy. So pull over top has hem band variations and a narrow hem. So hem band variations are just going to be these contrasting bands, as you can see depicted here in the technical drawings, in 2 different colors, so that you see that the bottom part here is a separate fabric. If you want to add it, you can of course make everything out of one, which is how I'll be teaching you how to do it here, just to minimize the amount of steps and make it a little bit simpler for beginners. Now, one thing to note down here, I always, regardless of what models are on the front or the sketches or the real life pictures, I always reference these technical drawings on the back because these are actually going to show you the silhouette of the garment and how it fits. So if this was more fitted, I would see more of an hourglass shape probably on the sides of this. But you can see that the edge here just kind of flares out, more like an A-line shape. So I know that it's going to be kind of this loose fitting, just top that goes over your head. Also, by looking at the technical drawing, you can see there's a seam right there at the sleeves, so you know this is going to have set-in sleeves. You already know just from looking at the images that it has that contrast band option. All right? So a few different things that you can tell really quickly and instantly just by looking at the technical drawings. This is always a go-to for me. Now let's go back to the description. If you notice, there are 4 different views, A, B, C, and D, and those you can tell by looking on the front. 1, 2, 3, and here's 4D. When you read the description starts here and it's telling you overall for the entire pattern what it is. The loose fitting, pullover top, blah, blah, blah. Then you start to see a bold letter and a colon, which is telling you C, meaning view C, has a pocket. Then you move over. Views A and C have a shaped hemline. Wrong side shows. Now, what does that mean? That means that views A and C, which are the ones that it just told me, okay, have a shaped hemline. If you look at the hemline on A and C, you can see that it's curvier than just these kind of flat hems on B and D. That's what that means. Then you can see on A barely the back hemline shows through to the front. And then on C, you can see it a little bit better. You see that little kind of curve down here that's showing the back fabric from the back of the top? That's what's going to show. So it's just letting you know, hey, the back, it's kind of like a high-low hem a little bit. You see the front hemline is shorter, so the back sticks further down, so you'll be able to see whatever's on the wrong side of the fabric just a little bit on the back. But they are giving you the information so you know ahead of time. If you're working with a fabric that does not look cute or you just don't want to show the wrong side, then don't choose it for the contrasting band down here. That's why they're giving you all these tips and clues so you kind of are able to gather all the information before you start selecting the fabrics you want to use for this project. Let's move on to read the rest of the description. That was A and C. B and D, it says it has a lower tuck. And you can't really tell on this picture, but it's right here. There's a little tuck. Sorry, let me show you here. There's like an extra little bold line right there where the top bodice piece meets that contrasting hemband. And it's like a little tuck that gets taken in there. And you can see it on there and on here, okay? That's for B and D. We're not gonna do that. This is adding extra steps, so we're gonna keep it a little bit simpler. Now it says purchased bias tape to finish necklines and armholes. And it says A and B. So A and B, if we have a look at views A and B, have obviously the neckline. All the tops have the neckline. But A and B are sleeveless. So you will need to finish the openings here for the arms on the sleeveless top. Views C and D have set-in sleeves. One has a cap sleeve, which is a little bit shorter. And then view D has a little bit longer sleeve. So by seeing this in the technical drawings, you can already look at all the different options and exactly what they entail before you even get into the pattern, okay? Which you can also see on the front, but I find it a little bit easier so that you're not distracted by the fabric prints or the models and things. You can kind of see exactly what's included here. Now it says purchase bias tape to finish necklines and armholes for A and B. So you will still need the purchase bias tape to finish all the necklines. That means regardless of the view that you're choosing. But you will also need it to finish the armholes if you're doing the sleeveless options view A and B. So there's a lot of information, and all I've read is this little thing. So this is where a lot of beginners get confused because they don't know how to decipher this stuff. So hopefully that was a quick enough, easy enough walkthrough. Okay, you just have to take it 1 or 2 words at a time. And I also find that it's helpful to have a little sheet of paper and a pen or pencil and start choosing. Once you decide which view you want to do, start writing what you need and what it's going to look like to help kind of pull out the key points and key information you need without it getting kind of lost among all the 4 different views and different finishing options that they're giving you. So I'm just going to take a minute and write out what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to do view C, and I'm only saying view C, well, I can say view D. Let's do view D, and I'll show you because I'm still going to adjust it. So I'm taking stuff from C and D. I'm gonna do it with the shorter cap sleeve. So I'm gonna do the shorter option, but again, you can do the longer one. You get both options in the pattern. View D, I'm gonna do the cap sleeve, no pocket, and I'm just gonna do the straight hemline. And I'm gonna remove this option of having 2 different fabrics. So I'm gonna do it all one fabric down. So all one fabric. And little notes like this is going to be helpful for when you're cutting out the pattern pieces, because I know if I'm leaving out the pocket, when I get to the pocket piece, I don't even need to cut it out because I won't be using it. Now let's move on to the next thing. It shows you the different sizes here. Okay, we know that. Designed for lightweight woven fabrics and stable knits. Now, just because they give you a blanket statement like this does not mean that any fabric that fits within that description is going to necessarily work. You can also step out of this range of fabric types and you might still get a successful project. But again, a lot of it is going to come down to trial and error, experimenting, and basing some of your choices or fabric choices specifically on your past sewing experiences. So say you're a beginner and you still have no idea what lightweight woven fabrics and stable knits are. Fine. Look below it. It's going to give you the name and textile type of some suggested fabrics. So the first one is actually pronounced shaly, all right? This is one of my favorite fabrics to work with, and I'm going to be working with a rayon shaly, and we'll get into that in a minute. Cotton knits. There are so many different fabrications of cotton knits that I would not jump into this just yet. I will say I have made this pattern in a knit, not a cotton knit, instead a polyester spandex knit, and it worked. But you need to know how to work with knits, how to work with different amounts of stretch in the specific knit fabric that you're working with. And it's a little bit more advanced than what I'm wanting to do here for beginners, all right? So stay away from the knits right now. Linen and rayon. I don't recommend a linen for beginners just because it's a little bit pricier. And I don't want you all to mess up on your first shirt and then want to give up on sewing because you feel like you wasted a ton of money buying some really pretty linen fabric and it didn't turn out. So hold off on that one for now until you at least have 1 or 2 of these tops under your belt and you have the pattern adjusted to exactly how you want it, then jump into that. Rayon. I'm going to be working with a rayon shaly. There's different fabrications of rayon, so don't think that because you see any rayon blend or you pick up some fabric that says rayon in the fabrication of it that you can use it. Not necessarily. It depends, okay? This needs to be a nice, lightweight, drapey fabric. So let's stick to a lightweight rayon shaly. Now the rayon shaly is not going to stretch, but it is going to be nice and drapey. It's not a super beginner fabric, but I don't think it's difficult enough to work with, and it doesn't require the amount of knowledge that I think Stretch Knits does in order to adjust it to fit this specific pattern. So that's what we're going to start off with. All right? Then it says unsuitable for obvious diagonals, with nap and without nap. I'll save that for a different day because for this project, this is not really going to apply. Set that aside on your brain for now. Let's just move on so you can kind of have something under your belt as you work your way through this project. So I know what I'm making. I've chosen a lightweight woven fabric. Rayon shaly is just that, lightweight woven fabric. All right, stay away from knits for now. Just because if you're working with a knit that has 20% stretch or 100% stretch, you will have to choose your pattern size accordingly. And if you don't yet have that knowledge, it's going to be a mess. So just save it for now. Rayon shaly, and we are carrying some rayon shaly prints in our online shop that I know work for this. I know that the quality is great for this. Now this big old chart here confuses almost all the beginners that I know. Let's break it down so you understand how it works and how you read across the rows and then down the columns. Sizes, here are your sizes. A, B, C, and D reference the look, the view, A, B, C, and D. So if we're doing view D, remember that these charts are going to be based on what view D looks like. So no pocket is accounted for in the fabric, and then it's accounting for more fabric needed for the longer sleeve. So let's just estimate the amount of fabric that we need. Always better to get a little bit more than you need just in case, but I'm going to show you how this works. Sizes are across the top. Your views are down on the column on the left. If you're doing view A, you're going to have two choices here, and you'll notice that 45, 60, 45, 60, you see it in every option. This 45 inch and 60 inch refers to the width of the fabrics. So if you're a quilter, you know that most of the quilting cottons come folded on a bolt, and they're anywhere from 40 to 45 inches in the width from selvage to selvage on the fabric, and that's what 45 means. It's a little bit shorter than some of the stretch knits, the rayon shaly prints. Those come anywhere from like 54 to 60 inches in width. So you're obviously getting more fabric in one that's a 60-inch width fabric if you order 1 yard, right? If you order 1 yard, it's going to be 36 inches by 60 versus 36 inches by 45. So you'll see that the amounts needed under each size reference that. You're going to always see a bigger amount needed at the smaller width of the fabric. I'm hoping that makes sense if you've never done it before, but let's walk through it. Let's go down to view D, okay? View D or C, either one of these, because remember, we're still going to change up here. So either one of these will work fine to be looking at. So let's say D. I'm working with a rayon shaly that's about 57 inches along the width of the fabric. So I'm going to go with the 60. And these are estimates. If your fabric is closer to one than the other, go with that one. So for 57, 58 inches wide, I'll go with 60. So far, supposedly, I should be cutting the extra large. So I'm going to come over here and look at D first. Notice D has D, which is for the actual top, and then contrast D. That contrast D references the contrasting hemline. Each one of them has a contrast. Contrast 1C, contrast 2C. And what does that mean? One for the pocket, one for the hemline. So pay attention to how they're breaking things up for you. In D, if I'm cutting out the extra large, pretend, in D, it's telling me 1 7/8 if I'm using 45-inch wide fabric, and it's telling me 1 1/4 yard if I'm working with 60-inch wide fabric. So that's what I'll be looking at. So right now, if I'm doing D, and that includes the longer sleeves, I should be getting 1 1/4 yard of the rayon shaly to complete the top part of the top. And then under, in contrast D, again, 60-inch, it's saying 7/8. Okay? So if I add these two together, 1 1/4 and 7/8, it's going to put me at just over 2 yards. But again, I know that I'm not doing a contrast band, and I know that I'm not doing the longer sleeves. So for me, 2 yards is going to be plenty. And notice what I'm going to give y'all as a blanket statement here to make this top. If you can get yourself 2 yards of any, if you're going to make it like me, completely solid, we're not doing contrast band here, but regardless if you're using the shorter cap sleeve option or the longer one, I would say 2 yards of a 57, 58-inch wide rayon shaly is going to be enough, more than enough, to cover all the sizes, okay? So even if you're cutting out the 2XL, you're going to need about the same amount. 2 yards should be good. So let me write that down. 2 yards of a rayon shaly is going to be the top, and I'm not doing any contrast. I'm just going to make the shirt out of one solid, either solid color or print, all right? And that's what I have for that. Now let's move on to see what else we need. After you're done choosing the look or the view that you want to make and have determined how much of which fabric you need, okay, write that down. And after, underneath this entire size chart for fabric requirements, you're going to see something else that says notions. And I know all this info is kind of jam-packed into this little space, but you need to know what you're looking for. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on some important information. Down here in bold, it says notions. 1/2 inch bias tape. So you're going to need 1/2 inch bias tape. When there's no letter in front of this, that means that for any of the views, you're going to need that. Then they go on to split it up. For A and B, the amount you'll need is 2.5 yards of the same 1/2 inch bias tape. If you're doing views C or D, you only need 1 yard of the 1/2 inch bias tape. Now, why do you think that is? Notice for A and B, you need more than you need for C and D. Remember when I said that A and B is sleeveless? And you have to both use the bias tape to finish the neckline and the armholes? That's why you need more for views A and B than you need for C and D. For C and D, we're only going to use the 1/2 inch bias tape to finish the necklines. So I'm just walking you through so you kind of get a feel for what this information means so that you can better be able to decipher it when you grab your commercial patterns. So I have that. Let me write that down. I need 1/2 inch bias tape. And because I'm doing C or D, same difference, right? 1 yard. Okay. Then a very, very, and probably the most important section back here that you'll find is another box that says finished garment measurements. This is what you need to look at because when we're looking at the description, remember we said loose fitting? I don't know what loose fitting is. And if you pick this up without knowing where to go to find Butterick's ease chart like I previously showed you, you're not going to know what Butterick means by loose fitting. So when you come down here, and this is something that without having your phone on you, without access to a computer, and without memorizing the ease charts, you'll be able to have a better idea of what size you're going to need to cut so that then while you're at the fabric store, you can purchase the right amount of fabric, right? And the right pattern size as well. So let's have a look at finished garment measurements. The width of the lower edge, it only has D here. And this is D, which for us, that's fine because that's what we're making. These numbers that you see here, they might mean nothing to you, but you have to remember that this entire side of this pattern envelope goes all the way back up to the size columns. Everything from this chart to this chart is going to run vertically down the size that it corresponds to. So the width of the lower edge, which let's say I have it go to where my hip is at, okay? If I know my hip measurement is a 46 or 47, let's say 46, 45, something like that, I can't remember, but say my hip is 46 inches around the hip. I need this supposed loose fitting top to fit me at my hip. I don't want it to be too tight here. So let's have a look at the finished garment measurements and see where I can get to 46. So 43, that's smaller than 46. That means if I cut a size extra small, it's not going to fit me there. I keep going to the next one. 45, that's too small for me too. That's a size small. 48 and a half, this is a size medium. If my hip measures 46, and this is gonna, and if I cut this size, because that's what this reference is, medium, if I do the medium, the finished top, once I'm done, assuming I followed the proper seam allowance, it's going to finish at the lower edge here at 48 and a half inches. What does that mean to me and my size? This is gonna give me a top, if I cut out a medium, that finishes 48 and a half inches at my hip line, which is giving me 2.5 inches, right, from my 46-inch hip measurement up to 48 and a half is 2.5 inches, and that's giving me 2.5 inches of ease. 2.5 inches for me to move around, just like this much fabric. Is that enough? Probably, if I'm wearing leggings underneath it, right? If I'm wearing jeans and it has to come over the jeans, it's probably gonna be a little bit tight. But I know that that's at my widest measurement. So if I make the top fit a little bit shorter, where I'm a little bit narrower, then I'll probably end up with 4 or 5 inches of ease at the hip line. And that, for me, would be perfect. If I go up to the next size, 52 and a half inches at the hip line or at the widest edge there. That's if I cut out the size large. That's a little bit too loose for me, right? Now remember, based on my body measurements, this Butterick pattern had me at an extra large. If I cut out the extra large like I did in the previous video, look how wide it was at the bottom. 56.5 inches. This is 10.5 inches of ease, guys. Way too much. That's why the top looked like it did in the previous video. So your finished garment measurements are key. If the pattern that you're purchasing does not have these, or you need it to have a few more different points like the finished bust measurement or the finished waist measurement, then you'll also have the option of measuring out the pattern pieces to determine whether or not that's the correct size for you to cut out. But at first glance, just looking off of the width of the lower edge of D, I know that I need to cut out a size medium, which notice is 2 sizes down from what I would have cut out if I would have gone just by my measurements, which I did to show you all specifically what you get. So now based on that in the lower edge finished garment measurements, I'm going to cut out the medium. Underneath the finished garments, where we were looking at width in the lower edge, okay, there's another finished garment measurement for you to reference and use in choosing your size, and that is the back length from the base of your neck. So right at the base of the back of your neck, kind of where the neckline would be on the back side of it, here are the different views, A, B, C, and D. Let's look at D. And this is going to give you the finished length of the top. So if you already have a length that you like to wear, you'll know right here, okay, this is 1/2 inch longer than that one. For me, the medium is going to be 31 inches in length, and that's plenty. What I like to do is I can always take away because the bottom hemline is going to be the last thing that I finish. So even after I complete the neckline and my sleeves have already been set, I can put on the top and adjust the finished length to where exactly I want it, especially since we're just going to be making this top with one solid piece of fabric. Okay, so you can leave the hem for last and then cut it accordingly and hem it to make it be the length that you want. So this is just another option for you to reference. If you know that you're petite and you know that 31 inches in length is way too much, then you can feel free to even adjust your pattern piece shorter than what it's going to finish because you already know. Say you like to wear your tops so that they're only 24 inches long from the base of your neck to the hem. Then you know you won't need quite as much fabric and that you can adjust the length to what you want. Phew, that was a lot of talking and a lot of information. So remember, this is not super easy, but once you know what you're doing, then it becomes easier for you to look at all these little numbers and words here and pick out what you need to start your garment. So just to recap what I've pulled from all this and we've gone over, I'm going to make view D, or we can say view C. Let's just do either or. I know I'm not going to have the longer sleeve. We're doing the cap sleeve from C. Cap sleeve from C. No pocket, a straight hemline from D, and I'm going to make it all in one fabric. I need 2 yards of a rayon shaly with at least, 54 to 60 inches of width of the fabric. So I know mine is 57 inches wide, so that's plenty. Remember that if you're using something narrower than that, that's 45 inches wide, you're going to need more. And then 1/2 inch bias tape. I need 1 yard to finish the neckline, and I'm going to cut out the medium. So these are all the little bullet points that I need to pull out from here to move on to the next step. Phew! A lot of information. I hope you were able to make it this far and watch the video till the end. If you learned something, let me know in the comments below. If you feel like you had a light bulb moment and now realize what it was that you were missing when you tried your hand at commercial sewing patterns in the past, let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to hear what you all thought about the video and if there was any information I covered that you completely had no idea about that now you feel is a game changer for you sewing some commercial sewing patterns going forward. If you enjoyed the tutorial, obviously don't forget to give it a thumbs up below, share it with your friends across the different social media sites, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button because there's more videos left in this series that I'll be posting and I would hate for you to miss out. So click that subscribe button and I will see you in the next video.